talkie. And she also is pretending that she's crying. We zoomed in just to see. There isn't a tear in sight. Dan, look at this. I invite the viewers to take a close-up look at this. Where's the tear?
To the world, it's just, what has she been doing? Does she work? As opposed to, oh my gosh, I work so hard. And I appreciate what hard work looks like. I like working hard.
The beginning of that clip where she's like, oh my God, it's like, it's so inauthentic.
Is Meghan Markle the real-life Duchess of drama, or just one of the most unfairly judged women in pop culture right now? The internet can't seem to make up its mind, and once again, her name is blowing up all over social media. Every headline, every post, every reaction, everyone's got something to say about Meghan. So what's the deal this time? Meghan popped up on a super emotional podcast episode, and things got intense real fast. She spoke straight from the heart, eyes glossy, voice trembling just a bit, and the clip went viral almost instantly. The internet lit up like fireworks. Her raw emotion turned into the main event of the day, and people couldn't scroll away even if they wanted to. Fans were touched, saying it showed Meghan's real side, someone just trying to speak her truth in a world that won't stop watching her every move. They saw her as genuine, even fragile for once, but not everyone bought it. Critics were quick to jump in, calling the moment a little too perfect, too polished, like it was planned for the cameras. And then boom, you could literally feel the tension in the air, like everyone online was waiting to see what would happen next.
I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. I would love reconciliation with my family. I've always, there's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious.
You made homemade strawberry jam. It's kind of like a doctor when you keep referring to them as doctor and like, call me Susan. Like I would never refer to myself as Her Royal Highness.
I think if somebody gives you a gift, you can say, so-and-so, my friend so-and-so gave me a present. Yeah. I don't feel like she needed to show.
Meghan's podcast host, Jamie Kern-Lima, set a tone that some fans called straight-up emotional overload. The vibe was heavy, like every word dropped with way more weight than expected. Sure, there was admiration all around, but people online said something felt off, like it wasn't a real back-and-forth chat. Instead of an open convo, it came across like a non-stop stream of compliments, and trust me, people caught that right away. The internet zoomed in on every tone shift, side glance, and awkward silence, turning it all into a wild mix of comment threads and deep-dive reaction videos. But if anyone thought that was the end of it, not even close. That same week, Meghan was suddenly back in the headlines for something totally different. She landed a spot on Time magazine's top 100 most influential women list. Huge win, right? You'd think everyone would be cheering, but nope, the internet went off again. Critics jumped online asking what exactly earned her that title. Was it her charity work, her advocacy, or just her constant media buzz? Fans and supporters were quick to defend her, saying she's been pushing hard for empowerment, representation, and visibility for women everywhere. But others claimed her spotlight comes more from drama than from true achievements. It turned into a massive online clash, admiration versus skepticism, flooding timelines, think pieces, and every gossip page you could find. And just when things couldn't get any hotter, Prince Harry jumped into the picture with a BBC interview that had everyone talking. The timing, wild. The internet, exploding again.
That feeding of others is my self-care. Oh my God, Glenn.
You have shown me some of the most excruciating and unbearable footage I've seen in quite a long time.
If you are trying to reconcile with your family, if you are trying to make amends, you don't go on TV and blame them again. This is literally the last thing.
It wasn't just what Prince Harry said, it was how he said it. The long pauses, the uneasy expressions, that heavy tone, viewers picked up on every little detail. Some even called the whole thing painfully awkward. Many felt the interview only made their shared public image even more tangled and confusing. It's like this couple is trapped in a spotlight that just refuses to fade, no matter how far they try to step away from royal life. Time keeps moving, but somehow the buzz around Meghan and Harry never dies down. It just changes shape. The media can't get enough, and social media, it's a battlefield of opinions. So here we go again, Meghan and Harry trending everywhere, picked apart, analyzed, and debated from every angle imaginable. Some people say Meghan's been unfairly targeted from day one, while others claim she somehow attracts the drama herself. But no matter which side you're on, one thing's crystal clear: Meghan Markle remains one of the most talked about women on the planet, and it doesn't look like that conversation's slowing down anytime soon. Behind the scenes, though, things are getting even messier. Whispers are starting to spread again, this time from people claiming they've worked closely with Meghan herself. These old rumors are crawling back up, hinting at a totally different side of her, one that's not so calm and polished like we see in glossy interviews or carefully crafted appearances. The story's far from over. The polished image of the elegant Duchess doesn't exactly line up with what some say happens behind the scenes. Rumors online paint a totally different picture, one full of tension, pressure, and sky-high expectations. A few people claiming to be former staff members have described Meghan as demanding and laser-focused on getting her way. They say she likes things done exactly how she wants, no exceptions. Whether those claims are true or just more internet noise, they've definitely thrown more heat into the non-stop controversy surrounding her name. And the timing couldn't be more wild. She's already dealing with serious business hurdles. Remember that big Spotify deal that suddenly came to an end? Or the Netflix projects that didn't hit the numbers fans were hyped for? Those setbacks have only fueled even more chatter. Every headline, every leaked snippet, every whispered story keeps people buzzing, and Meghan's name just can't seem to escape the drama.
Meghan Markle is now accused of breaking the agreement with the late Queen after podcast revelation, with the compliments of HRH, which is Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex.
She's stuck because she was an actress who became a real princess, who wants to be an actress again, but has to continue to pretend to be a real princess.
These stumbles in Meghan's professional world have kicked off a brand new wave of gossip about how deep her royal connection really runs these days. Some critics online are even saying she should stop signing off on gifts and letters as Her Royal Highness, claiming it doesn't match her current life outside official royal duties. That's a bold statement, and people are not holding back their opinions. Whether you think that's fair or just more internet drama, the noise around her royal status is only getting louder every single week. And right when the buzz started peaking again, Meghan dropped another headline-grabbing moment. Her latest podcast episode, it was hyped up as totally raw and real, no glam, no filters, no script, just Meghan baring her soul. The promo promised an unfiltered truth, a chance for her to connect directly with her audience without any royal polish holding her back. But when it finally went live, not everyone was buying it. Listeners started posting that it felt too perfect, almost like every emotional pause and heartfelt tear had been planned. Some said it didn't sound natural at all, more like a carefully produced moment meant to stir sympathy. And once that doubt started spreading, it caught fire. People online began dissecting every second of the episode, from her tone to her facial expressions, turning what was meant to be authentic into yet another public debate. People couldn't stop arguing over whether Meghan's podcast moment was truly heartfelt or just a smart PR move. That question took over social media fast. Comment sections everywhere blew up with heated debates. Some users said she was finally showing her real self, while others accused her of performing for the mic like it was another royal stage. The reactions were brutal. Some even joked that a random celebrity saying something wild would sound more believable than Meghan trying to open up. Oof, that's cold. But it shows just how divided the internet is about her. Meghan Markle's image has turned into one of the most fiercely debated topics in pop culture. Every single thing she does, every project, every statement, every emotional moment gets pulled apart from every angle. It's like people are constantly waiting to either cheer her on or call her out. One half of the internet stands behind her completely, saying she's been unfairly picked apart since day one. They see a woman trying to live her truth under non-stop pressure. But the other half, they're convinced she's carefully shaping her image, controlling the narrative to stay in the spotlight. And that's what makes it so wild. No matter what Meghan says or does, the world just can't seem to agree on who the real Meghan Markle actually is.
All of that has fueled speculation that her connection to the royal family is hanging by
a born manipulator. The Netflix thing, she doesn't do the work. She don't make the jams. It's all made for her.
The whole situation with the podcast host definitely didn't make things any easier for Meghan Markle. If anything, it cranked up the controversy even more. Megyn Kelly, the woman running the interview, wasn't just any host. She's actually a close friend of Meghan's, and viewers clocked that connection right away. People online started saying the conversation didn't feel like an interview at all, it felt like a celebration. Instead of a real balanced back and forth, some said it came off as one long stream of admiration, and that rubbed a lot of critics the wrong way. The comment sections were on fire, with users asking, was this truly about opening up and sharing something new, or just a polished PR stunt to boost Meghan's image? That question exploded across social media, with fans and skeptics replaying clips frame by frame, searching for anything that looked too rehearsed or too perfect. Commenters pointed out that Jamie never really challenged Meghan on anything. There were no tough questions, no deeper follow-ups. Every answer Meghan gave was met with more praise, more validation, and that dynamic made people suspicious, wondering if the whole podcast was carefully crafted to rebuild Meghan's brand rather than reveal her true personality. So what did audiences actually get from this Real Talk episode that was hyped up as unfiltered and raw? According to a lot of online critics, not much. Many said it offered no real insight or surprises, just the same familiar storyline about resilience being misunderstood and standing strong against public judgment. People felt like they'd heard it all before. And then came the kicker. The timing. The episode dropped right as Meghan's lifestyle brand was gearing up for a new product launch. That coincidence didn't go unnoticed either. Suddenly, what was supposed to be a heartfelt podcast started looking a lot more like a calculated move, and the internet made sure everyone saw it that way. When Meghan's new product finally dropped, it sold out in just 30 minutes. At first, it sounded like a massive win, a total sellout success story. But the internet wasn't about to take it at face value. Online sleuths immediately started asking the big question, was the stock ever that high to begin with? Marketing pros jumped in too, pointing out that the sold-out instantly moment might have been more of a strategy than an organic shopping frenzy. They said it's a classic hype move. Limit the stock, make it look exclusive, and boom, everyone's talking about it. Scarcity creates buzz, and buzz means headlines. Suddenly, Meghan's brand was all over the internet again. But this time, people were side-eyeing the timing. The whole thing started to look less like a random coincidence and more like a carefully planned rollout tied directly to that emotional podcast episode. And just when the conversation was peaking, Meghan dropped something super personal in the same interview. She opened up about her life as a mom, revealing a detail that sounded both tender and picture-perfect. She shared that every night she writes emails to her 2 kids, a digital journal of memories they can read someday when they're older. It sounded sweet, even poetic, and for a moment people felt touched by the gesture. But of course the internet had opinions. Some listeners said it felt too perfect, almost like something straight out of a luxury parenting ad, beautifully said, but maybe just a little too polished to feel real. The comment sections filled up fast with debates. Was it genuine motherly love or another carefully crafted story meant to shape her image? That one moment of supposed vulnerability quickly turned into one of the most talked about parts of the entire podcast. Fans were quick to shower Meghan with praise for that touching revelation. They called it a beautiful and intimate idea, proof, they said, that she's a deeply devoted mom who treasures her family above everything. People online said it showed her heart in a way the media rarely captures. But of course the critics didn't waste a second jumping in with their own take. They claimed the whole thing was just another perfectly placed puzzle piece in Meghan's ongoing image-building playbook, one more picture-perfect moment crafted to show her as the flawless mom and powerhouse entrepreneur rolled into one. And that right there is the heart of the Meghan Markle debate, authenticity versus image. Every time she opens up about something personal, the reaction splits like clockwork. Half the audience sees it as pure, raw emotion. The other half calls it scripted, polished, and way too precise to be real. That constant clash keeps Meghan locked in the center of public attention because no matter how emotional or simple her words are, people can't stop asking the same question. Is this the real Meghan or the brand version of her? Still, one thing's undeniable. Her power to command attention is unmatched. Whether she's being celebrated or criticized, Meghan's name stays trending. Her projects move fast, her statements spark debates, and her presence keeps every platform buzzing. Love her or not, Meghan Markle knows how to keep the world watching, and the question of how real she's being just keeps adding fuel to the fire. And this latest podcast episode? It didn't just make waves, it blew up the entire internet. Streaming numbers skyrocketed, pushing the show into the week's top trending releases. Clips of Meghan's most emotional moments were everywhere. TikTok, Instagram Reels, even endless reposts on X. It got to the point where you couldn't scroll for more than a few seconds without seeing Meghan's face, her voice, or that one tearful clip everyone was talking about. Meghan's eyes welling up, Jamie nodding supportively, and the two sharing a soft, knowing laugh mid-interview. It was the kind of scene that had everyone talking. During the podcast, host Megyn Kelly proudly described their conversation as raw and unfiltered, insisting the audience was finally seeing the real Meghan Markle, not some carefully rehearsed version. She even made sure to point out multiple times that Meghan hadn't seen the questions in advance, a detail clearly meant to underline how spontaneous and sincere the chat really was. But that move totally backfired with a big part of the audience. Instead of making people trust the authenticity, it made them more suspicious. Viewers online started asking, why keep saying that over and over? Some argued that repeating it so many times made it sound like the team was trying too hard to convince everyone it was real, instead of letting the honesty speak for itself. It began to feel like the production was working overtime to sell authenticity, and for many, that came off as a little too obvious. The more that claim was repeated, the less organic the whole interview felt. Across fan pages, gossip forums, and social threads, the debate exploded. Some fans were moved, saying they loved seeing Meghan get emotional and open up. It felt like one of her most genuine, heartfelt appearances ever, but others weren't buying it at all. They said the timing of her emotions felt too perfect, the delivery too polished, almost like she knew exactly how to make that tearful moment land on camera. By the end of the week, the argument over whether the podcast was real or rehearsed became one of the hottest trending topics online. Everyone had an opinion, Everyone was dissecting every second, and right when it couldn't get any messier, Alexander Law stepped into the picture, taking the entire conversation to a whole new level. Then came Alexander Law, a journalist from the Daily Mail, and he poured even more gasoline on the fire. He completely brushed off Meghan's emotional podcast moments, calling them nothing more than a calculated attempt to stay relevant in the public eye. His comments hit the internet like a lightning bolt, sparking outrage from Meghan's fans and laughter from her harshest critics. It was the kind of hot take that instantly split the internet right down the middle again. And of course, things went wild on X, formerly Twitter. The platform turned into a full-blown circus overnight. Users flooded timelines with memes, fiery opinions, and detailed threads breaking down every frame of Meghan's podcast appearance. Some people called it a smart PR move, while others accused her of pure emotional theater. One viral comment even joked, "Even her tears have a PR team," a cutting line that captured exactly what skeptics were thinking. That single remark spread like wildfire, becoming a meme in itself and showing just how hardened public opinion around Meghan has become. What once would have been seen as a moment of vulnerability was now being treated like a performance, analyzed from every possible angle. People aren't just listening to Meghan anymore, they're dissecting her. They're asking how she says things, why she says them, and what strategy might be hiding underneath it all. It's not just about her words, it's about the optics, the tone, and the timing. Every sigh, every tear, every carefully chosen phrase gets picked apart by millions of viewers trying to figure out what's real and what's rehearsed.
But she is a malignant narcissist who cannot get enough of herself while she simultaneously plays the victim.
Makeup, no script, just Meghan speaking from the heart. But many listeners didn't buy it. To them, the whole thing felt carefully planned.
Everything Meghan does seems to get pulled apart like it's a headline just waiting to explode. What makes it even more fascinating is how predictable the cycle has become. Meghan steps into the spotlight, shares something emotional, sincere, and beautifully packaged, and boom, instantly two camps form. One side praises her for being vulnerable and honest, while the other side calls it performance art. There's no in-between anymore, no neutral ground, just a non-stop storm of opinions about whether she's being real or just strategic. But love her or question her, nobody can deny how much attention she commands. That podcast episode proved it again. Every frame, every phrase, every teardrop turned into viral content. People couldn't stop replaying, commenting, and analyzing it all. That's the power of Meghan Markle. Even doubt about her authenticity becomes its own story. Every new moment keeps her locked at the center of global conversation, no matter what she says or does. And as the buzz grew louder, the spotlight shifted once again, this time toward the way Meghan tells her own story. According to a recent report from Marco, critics started pointing out that many of Meghan's interviews seem to circle back to the same themes: her struggles, her personal growth, and her business moves. What was meant to sound like honest reflection, they argued, started coming off more like personal promotion. The repetition made some people question whether Meghan was truly opening up or just reinforcing her narrative, a narrative built around resilience, empowerment, and constant reinvention. And with every new project she launches, the debate only grows bigger, proving once again that Meghan's story is never just a story. It's a headline magnet that refuses to fade. Every emotional moment in Meghan's podcast seemed to come with a quick nod to her brand or her lifestyle company, and that didn't go unnoticed. Some listeners said it felt less like a raw, honest chat and more like a polished pitch in disguise. Whether that's fair or not, the perception spread fast and added even more fire to the online buzz. People started asking if Meghan's vulnerability was truly heartfelt or just another layer in her perfectly crafted branding strategy. And just when the debate was peaking, The Express dropped a bombshell report. According to their so-called royal insiders, no amount of emotional rebranding would be enough to fix Meghan's damaged public image. Those insiders claimed that even though her new, softer tone might win sympathy from some people, the royal shine she once had is gone for good. They said her image has shifted too far from the palace days to ever be fully restored. Still, Meghan didn't back down. Not even a little. She kept showing up confident as ever, proving that no headline could stop her momentum. Her appearance at the Time 100 Summit sparked yet another whirlwind of reactions online, and this time the internet had receipts, photos, and short clips flooded social media, showing her mingling, smiling, and joining panels about leadership and influence. But of course, the comparisons started almost instantly. Viewers began debating who came off as more authentic on stage, Meghan Markle or Blake Lively. That random matchup took off like wildfire, turning into one of the week's most heated threads on X, formerly Twitter. Some users said Blake's charm felt natural and effortless, while others clapped back saying Meghan's elegance and poise were deliberate, and that's exactly what made her powerful. Once again, Meghan found herself right in the center of the conversation, one side calling her polished and perfect, the other calling her real and resilient, and everyone talking about her either way. The whole thing stopped being about what was actually said and turned into a full-on debate over who felt more real. That's how wild the conversation around Meghan's public image has become. Even her body language gets treated like a headline now. Every smile, every glance, every tiny gesture gets dissected like it's breaking news. And here's the twist, Meghan didn't even make the 2025 Time 100 list. Yet her simple appearance at the summit was enough to set social media on fire again. Critics said the attention around her was totally overblown, arguing that Meghan's coverage ended up feeling bigger than the event itself. Online, people started calling it the Meghan effect, that uncanny ability she has to dominate headlines even when she's not officially being honored. But not everyone meant that as a compliment. Her critics flipped it, saying it proved her fame now runs more on controversy than genuine accomplishment. And once again, the backlash went full throttle on X, formerly Twitter. Some users mocked her presence at the summit, calling it absurd and questioning why she was there at all. They pointed out that her latest projects centered around her lifestyle brands Jam, Honey, and Cupcake Sprinkles didn't exactly scream world-changing influence. The jokes came fast. One sarcastic post read, "From royal duties to royal recipes," while another claimed it was just another sign that celebrity culture values publicity over true impact. But as always, Meghan's loyal supporters were quick to fire back. They reminded everyone that her business ventures are rooted in empowerment, wellness, and creativity, not just fancy food jars and pretty packaging. In the end, even without being on the list, Meghan once again became the story. Her presence alone overshadowed everything else, proving that no matter how much people criticize her, she's still got that rare power to keep the whole world talking. Supporters fired back, arguing that building a full-blown lifestyle empire from the ground up is no small thing. They said Meghan's doing what few could, creating her own lane completely outside the royal bubble. They praised her hustle, her vision, and her drive to build something that's hers, not tied to titles or palace expectations. But even with all that support, the criticism didn't slow down one bit. It just kept pouring in, proving how divided public opinion around Meghan really is. At this point, the debate about her has practically become its own ongoing drama, an endless cycle of praise, shade, and speculation. Every time there's a new article, an interview, or a product launch, it adds another twist to her story. And no matter what she does, it's never unanimous. Some people see Meghan as a woman reinventing herself after facing enormous public pressure, strong, ambitious, and unshaken. Others see her as a celebrity who just can't stop trying to control the narrative, fine-tuning every move to stay in the headlines. But one thing everyone agrees on, Meghan Markle is impossible to ignore. Whether she's promoting a new venture or simply showing up at an event, her presence alone sets the internet on fire. Every appearance turns into a headline, and every reaction keeps shaping her image all over again. And lately, those reactions have gotten sharper, louder, and way more personal. One frustrated commenter even snapped, writing, "Who does she think she is? Gayle King, that's someone with a real track record of impact. She went to space. That jab hit hard, not just because it was harsh, but because it echoed what a lot of Meghan's critics have been saying. They argue that Meghan keeps projecting power and purpose, yet people still question whether her influence carries the same weight as figures who've truly broken new ground. That harsh comparison definitely stung, and the internet made sure it echoed across every corner of social media. Soon after, a new wave of coverage hit from GB News, featuring critics who didn't hold back. They branded Meghan a self-promoter who still leans heavily on her royal background to stay relevant. According to them, even as she works to build her own independent empire, her title and royal ties are still the main foundation keeping her name in the spotlight. They argued that Meghan's public image lives in constant conflict. She wants to stand on her own 2 feet, yet she can't seem to fully step away from the legacy that made her famous in the first place. That push and pull between independence and royalty has become the very tension driving her entire public story. Because of that, what should have been a huge career milestone, her Time magazine recognition, ended up sparking confusion instead of celebration. Some viewers said it didn't feel like a pure win, but rather another blurred moment in her complicated image. What exactly earned her the honor, her advocacy, her global visibility, or simply the non-stop media attention that follows her name everywhere she goes? That question hit hard online, with fans and critics clashing once again. Was the spotlight proof of her real impact, or just more evidence that Meghan Markle's fame thrives in controversy as much as in achievement?
There are times we get together and I'm like, I just want to have DoorDash come in. And you're like, let's make some. And I'm like,
no, I don't want to cook again, Meghan. My God, take a break.
She decided she didn't want to be a real princess because to be a real princess involves duty and responsibility, caring about other people. And so she just wanted to be a pretend princess in Hollywood. So she split her husband off from his royal family and then inked a $1 zillion deal with a bunch of media companies, and then all her projects flopped.
People couldn't seem to agree. and soon the argument over Meghan's recognition grew louder than the award itself. But while Meghan was busy riding that media whirlwind, Prince Harry was making headlines of his own, and not exactly the flattering kind. His latest BBC interview quickly turned into another major flashpoint after he openly criticized King Charles over personal security issues. The interview came right after Harry lost a court battle, and what could have been a calm discussion about policy spiraled into something far more emotional. His frustration was written all over his face, his voice tense, his words sharp, but instead of earning sympathy, it set off a whole new wave of backlash online. Columnist Sarah Vine didn't hold back in her reaction. She described Harry's tone as self-pitying and went as far as to accuse him of using his father's illness to sway public opinion. That accusation hit hard, and her column spread across social platforms in hours, igniting fierce arguments everywhere. Some readers sided with her, saying it was inappropriate for Harry to air such personal grievances in public, especially considering what the royal family's dealing with right now. But others came rushing to Harry's defense. They argued that he had every right to speak out about personal safety after everything he's gone through. To them, it wasn't about pity, it was about standing up for himself and protecting his family. Still, the timing of his remarks didn't sit well with everyone. According to reports from ITV News, palace insiders were deeply unimpressed, suggesting his comments showed seriously poor judgment. Behind closed doors, sources claimed the tension was through the roof, with many inside the royal circle saying Harry's words crossed a line that would be hard to walk back. It wasn't just what Harry said, it was when and how he said it. Palace insiders reportedly saw his decision to speak so candidly while his father was dealing with a private health issue as both risky and insensitive. For many, it only underscored how deep the divide between Harry and the rest of the royal family has truly become. Meanwhile, public reaction online was split right down the middle, but absolutely relentless. Some people called Harry's words brave and necessary, saying they showed he refuses to stay silent, no matter how uncomfortable the truth might be for others. But critics weren't having it. They argued he'd gone too far, turning private family pain into public drama. Threads on X, formerly Twitter, exploded with clips, commentary, and fierce debates over every single line of the interview. Was it courage or another case of self-inflicted chaos? Everyone had an opinion, and no one held back. And of course, all this fed right back into the constant scrutiny surrounding Meghan. Because fair or not, every move Harry makes inevitably circles back to her. Their reputations have become completely intertwined, two names that the internet refuses to separate. Meghan's been trying to shape her own narrative, building her lifestyle brand and working to seem more relatable, but every time she steps forward, another royal controversy drags her straight back into the headlines. That's the real irony. The harder they both try to control their image, the more resistance they face. Every statement gets picked apart, every motive questioned, every win shadowed by speculation. For Meghan, that means even her biggest moments, like her Time 100 recognition, end up clouded by criticism and online doubt. And for Harry, it means every word he utters about his family becomes instant breaking news. Together, they remain one of the most talked about couples on the planet, stuck in a cycle of attention they can't seem to escape no matter how hard they try. Harry and Meghan remain under a microscope that never switches off. Every look, every expression, every single quote gets analyzed by millions, sometimes within minutes. And while they're both trying hard to redefine what influence and independence mean for them, one thing's certain, the world isn't done debating whether they've truly escaped the royal shadow or if that same shadow still shapes everything they do. The ripple effects from Prince Harry's BBC interview didn't just make headlines, they reportedly reached all the way back to Buckingham Palace. According to the Mirror, King Charles has now become far more guarded when it comes to private conversations, worried that anything he says might eventually end up quoted in another interview, memoir, or streaming special. That says a lot about how tense things have gotten behind the scenes. Insiders claim the level of trust between them has hit a breaking point, so much so that even basic family talks now come with a heavy dose of caution. Meanwhile, the reaction online was ruthless. The internet didn't hold back for a second. Comment sections blew up with criticism of Harry's tone and attitude. Some users slammed him as entitled and out of touch, while others accused him of turning every royal problem into a public spectacle for clicks and sympathy. It was chaos across timelines. One viral comment cut through all the noise, calling the whole situation nothing more than a royal pity party. That phrase hit hard and took off instantly. It became a meme, a hashtag, and the perfect punchline for every sarcastic take floating around online. Suddenly, it wasn't just about Harry's words anymore, it was about how much sympathy people thought the couple even deserved at this point. And just like that, another royal moment turned into a global debate that refused to die down. It wasn't just Harry taking the heat. Meghan's name got dragged right back into the storm too. Critics wasted no time linking his BBC interview to what they see as the couple's ongoing public playbook, a non-stop cycle of grievance, tension, and media exposure. According to skeptics, Harry's words weren't really about security at all. They were just another episode in what they call the couple's long-running campaign of complaints that keeps the royal rift alive and the spotlight firmly on them. To those critics, it's less about safety and more about storytelling, a way to keep their side of the feud in the headlines while reshaping public sympathy. The harshest voices online went even further, claiming Harry's comments didn't heal old wounds, they ripped them right back open. The interview that was supposed to focus on practical issues suddenly reignited all the old emotional divides between the Sussexes and the rest of the royal family. And as always, when one of them speaks out, the other gets caught in the fallout. Meghan's name started trending all over again, with people questioning whether the couple's constant media appearances are helping their reputation or just making the public even more skeptical. The debate was non-stop. Some said they admired the couple's honesty, while others accused them of chasing sympathy through headlines. Then, just when it seemed like things couldn't possibly get more tense, boom, another round of controversy hit. Reports began circulating about Meghan's former staff, bringing a brand new wave of scrutiny her way. Several outlets started claiming that past employees described working with her as chaotic and unpredictable. Some reportedly said that expectations were always changing and that the environment could get intense fast. Whether those stories are exaggerated or not, they reignited an all-too-familiar conversation online. What's the real truth behind Meghan Markle's carefully polished image? And just like that, the drama deepened, pulling both Meghan and Harry right back into the center of another media storm. Reports claimed that communication around Team Meghan was often unclear or confusing, and whether those accounts were true or exaggerated, they went instantly viral. The public couldn't resist diving right back into speculation about what life behind the scenes with Meghan might really be like. At this point, it's a familiar pattern. Every time Meghan seems ready to move past one controversy, old stories suddenly resurface, giving critics fresh material to tear apart. Online discussions exploded again. Supporters rushed to defend her, praising Meghan's professionalism and resilience, while detractors accused her of creating instability within her own circle. The debate spread like wildfire across every platform: TikTok, Instagram, X, you name it. Some users even pointed out how these so-called former staff stories always seem to pop up at the most convenient times, right when the couple's facing another round of media backlash. Others insisted the timing didn't matter, saying these stories only confirm what they've believed all along, that Meghan's public image doesn't match what insiders claim to have seen behind closed doors. But no matter how loud the noise gets, one thing's undeniable: Meghan and Harry remain global headline magnets. Whether it's royal drama, business moves, or resurfaced rumors, they somehow always end up at the center of the cultural conversation. Every single story about them, no matter how old, vague, or minor, gets amplified, analyzed, and turned into viral content within hours. For Meghan, these resurfacing workplace claims just add another complicated layer to her already multifaceted public persona. To her supporters, she's a driven, hardworking woman who's constantly misunderstood and unfairly targeted by a media machine that won't give her peace. But to her critics, she's the architect of her own chaos, someone who says she hates the spotlight yet always ends up standing directly in it. And then there's Harry, whose every move only adds to the fascination. Together, they've built a level of media attention that most public figures could never imagine escaping, because whether people love them, doubt them, or roll their eyes at them, one fact remains unshakable: the world just can't stop watching Meghan and Harry.
Interview deeply alarming. It's delusional in so many ways as well.
I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. For the time being, it's impossible for me to take my family back to the UK safely.
That's a lie. You can take them back whenever you want. You can bring your own security. You can ensure that they're safe. You can go to safe spots. There are a million ways to do it. Don't announce it. Don't tell people you're coming. Just show up and find a space and make sure it has even extra security.
The mix of royal tension, media strategy, and renewed behind-the-scenes allegations has created yet another perfect storm. A swirl of drama, doubt, and non-stop discussion that keeps Meghan and Harry exactly where the public expects them, front and center in the world's spotlight. Even though none of the claims about Meghan's former staff have ever been officially confirmed, they still added another explosive layer to the ongoing debate over her leadership style. That uncertainty gave people plenty of room to speculate, and social media filled in the blanks fast. Posts, podcasts, and viral clips all seem to ask the same question over and over: what kind of boss is Meghan Markle really? Everyone had an opinion, and none of them were quiet about it. At the same time, a fresh wave of attention hit her business ventures. Observers noticed that Meghan's rebranding efforts and new product launches were rolling out at lightning speed. Every few weeks seemed to bring another teaser, another collaboration, or another glossy lifestyle drop. Commentators started wondering if this was part of a tightly controlled long-term plan or just a quick reaction to all the public pressure building around her. One critic summed it up sharply: saying, "It feels like she's trying everything at once to see what sticks." That blunt remark caught on instantly because it echoed what a lot of people were already whispering online, that Meghan's business game looked less like strategic vision and more like trial and error. And while that discussion was blowing up, another debate started to dominate timelines, this time about the couple's entire media strategy. Analysts began arguing that Meghan and Harry's constant appearances, whether in interviews, documentaries, or public statements, might actually be keeping their controversies alive rather than moving past them. It raised a bigger question that no one could seem to answer: are they trying to control their narrative, or are they trapped inside it? Whatever the truth, one thing's for sure: every new move they make guarantees. Critics argue that instead of letting things fade naturally, every new appearance by Meghan and Harry just reignites old headlines, keeping the same negative stories alive and circulating. But others completely disagree, saying that speaking out is the only way the couple can control their own story, especially after stepping away from royal duties. It's a delicate balancing act, trying to stay visible without adding fuel to the backlash, and not many public figures can walk that tightrope successfully. Even years after their royal exit, public opinion about the pair remains fiercely divided. Supporters see Meghan as someone who's been unfairly targeted from day one, a woman constantly picked apart for the same things other celebrities get celebrated for. They say she's simply working to build her own path, her own identity, and a thriving business empire completely outside palace walls. But critics tell a different story. They see her as too focused on image and reputation, someone who talks about authenticity while managing every public detail like a marketing pro. They claim her every move feels rehearsed and her openness too curated. The truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. But in the world of media, perception rules everything. And right now, that perception leans more negative than positive. Even when Meghan launches something genuinely inspiring or creative, it doesn't take long before doubt creeps back in. The pattern has become so predictable that analysts have started calling it out: the cycle of excitement, backlash, and debate that always seems to follow her name. One moment she's praised for innovation, the next she's accused of overexposure. And with whispers of new projects and collaborations already circulating, one big question hangs over everything: will the next chapter of Meghan Markle's brand finally flip the narrative, or just spark another round of controversy? Whatever happens next, one thing's for sure: people won't stop watching. Or will history just repeat itself again? Hype, backlash, and the spotlight swinging right back to Meghan like it always does. Because no matter what she says or does, one thing stays certain: Meghan Markle always ends up at the center of the story, and the world just can't look away. This time, though, Meghan didn't dominate headlines because of a podcast or a product launch. It was because of the strong words from one of her loudest and most relentless critics, Megyn Kelly. During her latest on-air commentary, Kelly didn't hold back for even a second. She flat-out called Meghan a malignant narcissist, a label so explosive it instantly sent shockwaves through talk shows, online forums, and social feeds everywhere. The moment that quote hit the internet, it blew up. Within hours, people were in full debate mode, some saying Kelly had crossed the line, others insisting she just said out loud what plenty of people had been whispering for months. Hashtags started trending, clips went viral, and once again Meghan found herself right in the middle of a digital firestorm. Then the Telegraph's columnist Celia Walden jumped in with her own take, and she didn't go easy either. Walden described Meghan's recent podcast episode as a self-focused therapy session rather than a meaningful interview. That line spread fast because it captured exactly what many critics had been saying all along: that Meghan's emotional moments often orbit around her own experiences instead of reaching out to broader, more reflective topics. Of course, Meghan's supporters weren't having it. They rushed online to defend her, arguing that authenticity means speaking from personal truth. To them, sharing her own struggles isn't self-centered, it's human. But once again, the internet was split in two, and the conversation just kept growing louder. Because when it comes to Meghan Markle, every opinion turns into a headline, and every headline turns into a worldwide debate. But the criticism didn't slow down. It spread fast and hit deep. And just when it felt like things couldn't possibly get more intense, Page Six jumped into the mix with a report that poured even more fuel on the fire. According to their claims, several major wellness and lifestyle brands, including Goop, had allegedly chosen not to collaborate with Meghan. The report suggested that these companies saw her as too polarizing for their image, a claim that immediately sent shockwaves through social media. If true, it hinted at something way bigger, that Meghan's public reputation might actually be impacting her business partnerships. Whether that rumor was real or not, it didn't matter. The story became a headline all on its own. Within hours, comment sections were packed with takes from both die-hard fans and relentless critics, each trying to define what this meant for Meghan's brand future. But here's what really set the internet ablaze: the emotional side of Meghan's public persona. Every time she tears up or shares something deeply personal, critics now say it doesn't feel spontaneous anymore. To them, it comes across as too polished, too perfect, almost like a strategic move designed to shift public sympathy. They claim the emotional spark just doesn't hit the same way it used to, because people have started questioning the intent behind every teardrop and heartfelt word. On the flip side, her supporters fired back hard. They said those emotional moments are exactly why Meghan connects so powerfully with people, that she wears her heart on her sleeve and never hides her feelings, even with the whole world watching. They argued that vulnerability shouldn't be mistaken for manipulation. It's what makes her human. Still, the divide couldn't be clearer. Two sides seeing the same woman in completely different ways. And then, right in the middle of all that chaos, attention suddenly shifted toward Jamie Kern-Lima, the podcast host sitting beside Meghan during those emotional moments. The internet turned its gaze on her next, ready to analyze her every reaction, every look, and every word, because when Meghan Markle's involved, no one in the room stays out of the spotlight for long. During that emotional podcast episode, audiences started rewatching every clip, pausing, zooming in, and dissecting every reaction from host Jamie Kern-Lima. Viewers analyzed her tone, her facial expressions, even the way she nodded at Meghan's answers. Some people said Jamie looked too eager to please, while others defended her, saying she was just being warm and supportive. Either way, she got swept right into Meghan's media storm, her interview style suddenly becoming a major talking point all on its own. One thing's clear, the Meghan conversation isn't slowing down anytime soon. Every quote, every tear, every rumored collaboration adds another layer to this ongoing story that never seems to stop unfolding. Whether people see it as empowerment or pure performance, Meghan Markle continues to dominate headlines like no other public figure can. But when it came to Jamie's part in the viral interview, viewers definitely didn't hold back. Many said her overall vibe felt way too polished, almost rehearsed, like she was reading from a carefully written script filled with non-stop compliments instead of digging into any real or challenging questions. The chemistry between Meghan and Jamie was undeniably warm, but to some it came off as too warm, borderline overly flattering. YouTube commentator The Royal Rogue was one of the loudest voices criticizing the episode's tone. In his review, he pointed out Jamie's unusually high-pitched delivery and described it as exaggerated and artificial, saying the entire exchange felt more like a performance than a conversation. He even took it further, suggesting that Jamie sounded more like a cheerleader for hire than an independent interviewer. That take spread across fan forums, gossip pages, and YouTube threads almost instantly. Viewers began rewatching the full episode, trying to decide for themselves if he was right. For a lot of people, it became impossible to ignore how often Jamie echoed Meghan's talking points instead of pushing for deeper insight or a fresh perspective. Adding to that wave of criticism, media analyst Rose Lanigan also jumped in with her professional take. She argued that Jamie's constant enthusiasm made the conversation feel less like an authentic discussion and more like a late-night infomercial. Lanigan said the episode was loaded with affirmations and admiration, but light on substance. Still, no matter the backlash, one fact stands strong. Meghan's interviews never fade quietly. They turn into cultural moments, an endless loop of reactions, rewatches, and viral takes that keep her and everyone around her in the global spotlight.
She's not editing scripts. She's not editing what's going to happen the next day. People are putting that in place. She won't even organise her own clothes. Everything is organised for her. That is not hard work. Hard work is get up in the morning, get to 7 o'clock, get into a factory or a shop and working for 10 hours on your feet, coming home knackered. That's not what happens.
And being a mom and a wife and a friend.
Oh, yeah.
Those are all jobs. I mean, I love being that busy, but I do think it's really interesting when people have no sense of what goes into the thing.
Yeah.
Instead of asking tough or thought-provoking questions, Jamie Kern-Lima seemed to double down on praising Meghan's best qualities, leaving the audience wondering what the real goal of the episode even was. Viewers expected depth and balance, but what they got felt more like a polished highlight reel of Meghan's charm and grace than a genuine interview. Meanwhile, users on X, formerly Twitter, jumped in fast, turning the backlash into a full-blown online spectacle. Memes, clips, and long threads flooded timelines within hours, racking up thousands of interactions. The phrase Meghan Markle hype session started trending, perfectly summing up how a huge chunk of the audience felt. They wanted insight, honesty, maybe even a few tough moments, but instead they got what sounded like one long stream of admiration. What made all of this even more surprising was who Jamie Kern-Lima actually is. She's not just a casual talk show host, she's a self-made business powerhouse. Jamie built her beauty company from scratch and sold it for over $1 billion. She's known for her sharp instincts, fierce determination, and deep understanding of what it takes to succeed in a high-stakes industry. Because of that, fans expected her to bring that same laser-focused insight into this interview to really dig into Meghan's leadership style, her business struggles, and what it's like managing a personal brand that's constantly under global scrutiny. People were ready for a conversation about strategy, pressure, and power moves behind the curtain, but instead of that hard-hitting dialogue, what they got felt more like a friendly pep talk, safe, glossy, and overly complimentary. The missed opportunity left many frustrated, wondering why someone as experienced and strategic as Jamie chose not to push the conversation deeper. The disappointment wasn't just about Meghan, it was about what could have been one of the most revealing interviews of the year. Audiences said the podcast felt less like a deep conversation and more like a one-hour celebration of Meghan Markle with barely a moment of critical thought. It was polished, emotional, and undeniably entertaining, but to many viewers it also felt like a huge missed opportunity. One user on X, formerly Twitter, summed up the general reaction perfectly, writing, "Jamie has the experience and brains to run billion-dollar companies, so why is she acting like Meghan's PR rep?" That single comment captured the confusion everyone was feeling. People weren't mad that Jamie supported Meghan, they were just shocked at how completely she seemed to hand over control of the entire conversation. Fans and critics alike were left asking the same thing. Why would someone that successful, that influential, sound so rehearsed and deferential? In the end, what was meant to be an empowering, inspiring dialogue turned into a viral talking point, not about Meghan's message, but about the tone and delivery of the woman interviewing her. Suddenly, Jamie Kern-Lima herself became part of the media storm she was supposed to help illuminate. The spotlight she tried to shine on Meghan ended up turning right back on her. The reaction to Meghan's podcast and all the noise that followed only reinforced one major idea. The entire episode felt tightly managed and brand-driven, rather than free-flowing or authentic. Every second of it seemed so curated that many viewers said it felt like watching a perfectly packaged narrative instead of a genuine, spontaneous moment. Even the emotional parts looked polished, to the point where people started questioning whether anything in the episode was truly off the cuff. And when you zoom out, it's clear this isn't just about one podcast, it's part of a much bigger story that's been following Meghan and Prince Harry for years. From Meghan's tearful emotional interviews to Harry's tense BBC appearances, the pattern is always the same. Every public moment meant to show vulnerability ends up reigniting debates about authenticity and control. It's the cycle that keeps defining their public lives: polished emotion, viral reaction, endless dissection, and somehow, no matter how the story spins, the spotlight always finds its way back to Meghan and Harry. The same question keeps circling back like clockwork. Are Meghan and Harry finally speaking their truth, or are they carefully shaping a dramatic narrative? It's the question that fuels every headline, every trending hashtag, and every fiery online debate. Each time the couple opens up, whether it's about royal struggles, public scrutiny, or private family tension, audiences split in two. Some see honesty and courage, others see strategy and control. That divide only got louder after Time magazine's controversial recognition of Meghan among the world's most influential figures. What should have been a straightforward celebration of success instantly turned into another flashpoint for debate. Instead of being seen as an achievement, the title became a magnet for criticism. Detractors argued it was more about media attention than genuine influence, while fans celebrated it as proof that Meghan's voice still matters on a global scale. Then came the resurfaced reports from former staff, describing what they called a demanding work environment. Stories that reignited old questions about Meghan's leadership style and what really happens behind the polished image. Those whispers, true or not, fused with everything else: past interviews, emotional podcasts, business launches, to form a tangled web of scrutiny that just won't fade away. Critics have been relentless, painting Meghan and Harry as a self-absorbed power duo who, in their eyes, use personal hardship to maintain public sympathy. They claim every emotional interview or tearful confession seems to drop right when their buzz starts to cool off. To them, it's all a perfectly timed move, a media strategy built on emotion and precision. But on the flip side, their supporters see something completely different. Fans say Meghan and Harry are just fighting to reclaim their voices in a system that tried to silence them. They argue that every time the couple shares their story, the world twists their words and forces them to defend themselves all over again. To that loyal audience, Meghan and Harry aren't manipulating the narrative, they're surviving it. They're trying to own their story in a world that keeps rewriting it for them. And that's what keeps the fascination alive, because no matter which side you're on, everyone's watching to see what they'll say next. Their emotional openness isn't manipulation, it's survival. It's what happens when two people refuse to stay silent in the face of constant judgment. Meghan and Harry's willingness to expose their pain, their pressure, and their truth isn't about seeking sympathy, it's about taking back control in a world that never stops watching. Still, if you scroll through social media right now, the skepticism is impossible to miss. Hashtags, reaction clips, and hot takes flood every platform, all circling the same burning question: are we seeing real vulnerability or a polished masterclass in branding disguised as emotion? That blurry line between authentic and rehearsed has never looked thinner. And maybe the truth lives somewhere in that messy middle, too complex for either side to fully admit. Because at the end of the day, while the internet dissects every tier, every headline, and every quote, the rest of us are just spectators watching the royal drama unfold through our screens. We react, we analyze, we scroll, all while juggling our own everyday chaos. Maybe that's exactly why we can't look away, because in a strange way, their story reflects our own craving for validation, truth, and control in a world that's always judging. Meghan and Harry's saga isn't just about fame or royalty anymore, it's about how modern public figures craft their truth in real time. It's about survival in the spotlight, where every emotion becomes content, every expression becomes a headline, and every silence becomes a story of its own. And now, as the noise surrounding Meghan Markle and Prince Harry only grows louder, media analysts are starting to ask a serious question. Can they really keep this strategy going long-term without it backfiring? How long can they walk this tightrope between openness and overexposure before the public decides they've seen enough? Because right now, the fascination is endless, but fascination can shift fast. And in today's world of viral judgment and instant reactions, even the most powerful narrative can turn on its storytellers in the blink of an eye. The couple's constant visibility, emotional storytelling, and perfectly timed media moments have kept Meghan and Harry locked at the center of global attention for years. But even some of their longtime supporters are starting to wonder, can this level of exposure really last forever? Experts in entertainment and public relations are beginning to sound cautious, pointing to a phenomenon known as audience fatigue. It's that breaking point where people stop feeling sympathy and start rolling their eyes instead of leaning in. One analyst explained it bluntly. At some point, the audience stops connecting with the story and starts questioning the motive. And that's the real risk. In today's digital world, perception can flip overnight. One wrong tone, one overexposed moment, and admiration can turn to exhaustion before you even hit refresh. The same attention that once fueled their success could start working against them if people begin feeling like they've heard it all before. Still, not everyone sees that as a bad thing. Some media experts believe the controversy is part of the plan. Staying talked about, even for polarizing reasons, keeps Meghan and Harry relevant in a culture where attention equals influence. In the modern media game, silence means invisibility, and invisibility means fading out. Being controversial, they argue, isn't necessarily destructive, it's strategic. A few observers even believe the couple knows exactly what they're doing. By triggering public debates and dominating headlines, they're keeping control of the narrative and staying at the top of trending lists worldwide. Every time they speak, social media lights up, clips go viral, and the press churns out a new wave of stories that keep their names in circulation. But with that attention comes massive pressure, especially now that some of their earlier projects have pulled in mixed reactions. Every new move feels like a test, every appearance like a gamble. The question hanging in the air is clear. Can Meghan and Harry keep turning controversy into currency, or are they getting dangerously close to crossing the line into overexposure? Expectations for whatever comes next are sky high. Industry insiders are watching Meghan and Harry's every move, waiting to see if the couple can finally prove they're capable of delivering more than just buzzworthy headlines. One entertainment executive even put it bluntly, the next project has to show consistent value, not just attention. In other words, this time results matter more than hype. They've built a global brand that no one can stop talking about, but the real challenge now is proving that it can actually last beyond the drama. Supporters, however, aren't backing down. They're louder than ever, fiercely defending Meghan and calling out what they see as blatant double standards in how she's treated by the media and the public. Many point out that women in the spotlight are almost always judged more harshly than men, especially when they show ambition, confidence, or vulnerability. To those defenders, the narrative around Meghan has been exaggerated from the start. Twisted to fit whatever angle sells, they see her as a woman trying to move forward, rebuild, and define herself outside of the royal machine, a process that's hard enough without the entire world analyzing every word, every look, and every project she takes on. But critics, they see something completely different. To them, the Meghan and Harry playbook has become painfully predictable. Emotional interview, new business launch, and then like clockwork, public backlash. They claim it feels less like evolution and more like a cycle built to stay relevant, no matter the cost. Some analysts are even warning that this repetition could start to erode trust among audiences. When every vulnerable moment is followed by a new product or project, people begin to question what's real and what's calculated. That tension between sincerity and strategy is exactly what keeps Meghan and Harry at the center of the world's attention. For now, the stakes couldn't be higher. Their next move will decide whether they can finally silence the critics and turn all that attention into long-term credibility, or if they'll once again find themselves caught in the same headline-driven loop that's followed them for years. The more polished Meghan and Harry's storytelling becomes, the less believable it feels to some audiences. Either way, one thing's undeniable: they've absolutely mastered the art of commanding attention. The question now is whether they can turn all that attention into something lasting, meaningful, and respected, or if their constant visibility will eventually wear thin with a public that's clearly craving something new. Observers and industry insiders have started spotting a pattern, one that's becoming harder for the couple to shake off. Many are beginning to notice how the timing of their personal revelations seems to line up perfectly with their commercial ventures. Emotional interviews drop right before new product launches, documentaries, or big media appearances. And whether that overlap is intentional or pure coincidence doesn't even matter anymore, because in the court of public opinion, perception is everything. That's where things get tricky. Every heartfelt confession, every emotional soundbite, every unguarded moment is now met with a deeper level of skepticism. What once felt like raw honesty now has people side-eyeing the timing, wondering if there's a strategy behind every tear. For many viewers, it no longer feels like spontaneous truth, it feels like strategic timing. And once that doubt creeps in, it's hard to shake. One cultural analyst summed it up bluntly: every time they share something deeply personal, it's followed by a headline, a deal, or a new brand reveal. It's hard to separate emotion from marketing anymore. Even if that perception isn't entirely fair, it's become part of the story now. Meghan and Harry's challenge isn't just about winning sympathy or admiration, it's about rebuilding trust in a world that questions every move they make. They've built a global platform that most public figures could only dream of, but the very machine that made them powerful is also the one that's starting to turn on them. And as the line between authenticity and agenda blurs even more, one thing's for sure: the world will keep watching, waiting to see whether Meghan and Harry can finally flip the script, or if they'll stay caught in the same cycle that made them famous in the first place. That blurred perception is still shaping how people interpret everything Meghan and Harry do in real time. Right now, their image feels like it's sitting at a major turning point. After years of dominating headlines, from royal controversies to high-profile media deals, the couple has arrived at a crossroads where their next move could define their long-term legacy. The decisions they make moving forward will determine everything. They could either rebuild credibility and shift public opinion back in their favor, or risk drifting even further into a space where audiences tune out, convinced that every gesture is part of a bigger performance. The pressure has never been heavier, and every step counts. Supporters argue that the backlash says more about society's bias than about Meghan or Harry themselves. They insist that women, especially ambitious, outspoken ones, are often labeled calculating the second they show strategy or confidence. To them, Meghan is just navigating a world that's stacked against her, one where authenticity is doubted no matter how honest or vulnerable she tries to be. They say her every move is judged twice as harshly simply because of who she is and the royal legacy she stepped away from. Critics, though, see things completely differently. They claim that Meghan and Harry have blurred the line between real emotion and PR so thoroughly that it's nearly impossible to tell where sincerity ends and branding begins. To them, the couple's constant presence, whether in interviews, documentaries, or podcasts, feels less like openness and more like image management disguised as vulnerability. Either way, there's no denying it. This next chapter is absolutely crucial. With whispers of new projects already in the works and their public image under non-stop scrutiny, Meghan and Harry are walking a tightrope between influence and overexposure. If they can deliver something that feels meaningful, grounded, and genuinely raw, they just might win back the authenticity their supporters have been defending all along. But if they keep playing it too polished, too predictable, the risk is real. Audiences could start tuning them out for good. It's a make-or-break moment for one of the most talked-about couples in modern pop culture, and the world is watching closely to see which version of Meghan and Harry shows up next. But if this pattern of emotional storytelling followed by promotion keeps going, the risk of losing public trust only gets higher. At this stage, perception has become reality, and the world is watching every move to see which path Meghan and Harry will choose next. And that brings us to the end of this wild, dramatic, deep dive into Meghan and Harry's never-ending media storm. No matter where you stand, whether you see them as misunderstood figures trying to tell their truth or as master strategists playing the media game to perfection, one thing's undeniable: the world just can't stop talking about them. Their story keeps evolving, the headlines keep coming, and every new appearance adds another twist to this royal saga that refuses to fade. They've turned fame, controversy, and vulnerability into a global spectacle, and somehow we're all still watching. But now it's your turn. What do you think? Are Meghan and Harry being unfairly judged by the press and public, or are they simply playing the media game better than anyone else out there? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I want to know what side you're on. And hey, before you scroll away, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. It seriously helps the channel grow and keeps us bringing you more deep dives into the stories everyone's buzzing about. Don't forget to turn on notifications too, because when it comes to Meghan and Harry, there's always another headline waiting to drop. Stay tuned, stay curious, and we'll catch you in the next one.